My brother slept with my wife. My parents called it a mistake worth forgiving. My wife called it love. I called it a prenuptial agreement, and I made sure every single one of them understood exactly what that meant. My name is Ian. I'm 34, a structural engineer. Up until about a year and a half ago, I was based out of Nashville, Tennessee. In a house I'd owned for 6 years, in a marriage I'd believed in completely, with a family I thought I knew. None of those things are true anymore. 3 of them are losses. One of them is a relief I couldn't have predicted. Let me start with the family structure, because context matters. My brother is 2 years younger than me. Growing up, he was the one teachers remembered by name, and coaches put in the starting lineup. Not because he was the most talented, he wasn't, in any measurable way, but because he had that particular quality that some people are born with, and the rest of us spend our whole lives trying to manufacture. Effortless. That's the word. He walked into rooms like they'd been waiting for him. People laughed at things he said before the punchline landed. My mother saved his voicemails. My father drove 45 minutes each way to his recreational basketball games while I'd see schedule conflicts the day I walked across the stage at Vanderbilt. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because it matters to understand what happened later. When I needed my family to stand in my corner and found out who they actually were. I was the other kind of son, the one who handled things, fixed things, who paid his taxes early, kept a 6-month emergency fund, and read the fine print on every contract he ever signed. People called it uptight. I called it being a functional adult. I took care of myself because I'd learned, incrementally and without any single dramatic moment, that nobody else was going to do it for me. That's just the deal when you're the dependable one. People depend on you. They don't usually protect you. I met my wife during graduate school at UT Knoxville. We were both in engineering, both serious about it. Both the kind of people who showed up early and stayed late. She was smarter than most people in the room, and funnier than she let herself be publicly. Which I found more interesting than the other way around. We dated 3 years. I proposed at Radnor Lake on a Saturday morning in October. Down on one knee in front of a bench we'd claimed as ours. And she said yes before I'd finished the sentence. We got married in April, 4 years before any of this happened. My brother was our best man. He gave a toast that made the whole left side of the venue tear up, including my wife, including me. I remember squeezing her hand and thinking this was exactly what I'd spent my whole careful, responsible life working toward. A person who fit. A family gathering that felt warm instead of transactional. A brother who in that moment, actually seemed proud of me. Looking back from where I'm standing now, that memory has a different texture. There were signs, of course. There always are, and you always see them better in the rear view. The way my wife brightened when my brother arrived at family dinners. How she'd find reasons to sit near him, to ask him questions that kept the conversation pointed in his direction. Once, at my parents' place for Thanksgiving, I walked into the kitchen and they were laughing about something that stopped when I came in. My wife said they were just talking about an old TV show. I said okay, and got myself a drink. I filed it. I kept moving. That's the thing about trust. It doesn't just make you overlook things. It actively reframes them. I wasn't being naive. I was being a husband who believed in his wife. The difference only matters in retrospect. The discovery happened on a Tuesday in March. A client postponed a site review with 2 hours notice. I texted my wife that I was coming home for lunch, got no response. She worked from home on Tuesdays and was often deep in her own projects by mid-morning. And stopped at the deli on Charlotte Avenue. Turkey on sourdough with extra pickles, because I knew her order the way you know things. You've repeated enough times for them to become automatic. I noticed a car parked half a block from our house, same make, same color, same dealer sticker on the rear window, as my brother's vehicle. I told myself it was probably a coincidence. Same model was common enough. I carried the bag inside, set it on the kitchen counter, called her name. No answer. The house was too quiet in a way that read wrong. Before I had a reason to read it wrong. I stood at the bottom of the stairs for longer than made sense. 12 steps. I'd replaced the third one the previous summer. Because it squeaked, I'd measured, cut, and installed it myself on a Saturday afternoon. While my wife read on the porch and brought me iced tea, I remember thinking, that was what marriage looked like. From the inside, the unglamorous maintenance of a shared life. I went upstairs. The bedroom door was closed. What I found on the other side of it I'm not going to describe in detail, because the geometry of it doesn't add anything to the story. What matters is this: both of their faces drained to the color of dry concrete. And for 4 long seconds, nobody moved or made a sound. My brother said, "It's not what it looks like." I made a sound in my throat that wasn't quite a laugh. Then I said, "Get out of my house." He started talking, how long it had been going on, how he'd tried to stop it, how he was sorry. I held up one hand and he went quiet. My voice when it came back was very flat and very precise. Get out of my house, now. He dressed and left, without looking at me. My wife tried to explain. She used the word complicated repeatedly, as though the situation were a math problem with too many variables, instead of a decision she'd made over and over again, while looking me in the face. She says that she hadn't meant for it to go this far. She said it wasn't about me. She cried with the proficiency of someone who'd had occasion to cry in difficult situations before, and knew what it accomplished. I told her to call a friend to stay with, and that I needed the house to myself by the time I returned from my office. Then I drove to the office, sat at my desk, and stared at a structural load diagram on my monitor for 2 hours without processing a single line of it. My college roommate, the one person outside my imploded life I trusted completely, answered on the second ring. He told me to come over. I stayed on his couch for 3 nights. He didn't push me to talk. He brought food I mostly didn't eat, and let the sciences run, as long as they needed to. The real weight of it landed around 2 a.m. the first night. Not just the image of what I'd found, though that was there too, with the persistence of something you can't unsee. But the timeline. How long had this been happening? How many Sunday dinners had I sat across from both of them? How many times had I thanked my brother for being such a consistent presence in our lives? The questions had no floors. I let them run until my brain exhausted itself, and then lay there in the silence and started thinking practically. Because that's what I do when I have nothing else left. I'd signed a prenuptial agreement 4 years earlier. I want to be transparent about the reasoning because it matters. I'd purchased our house 3 years before the wedding. I had meaningful retirement savings and real property equity by the time I proposed. My attorney at the time was direct. A prenup isn't pessimism, it's clarity. We included a standard infidelity clause. I had included it the way I'd installed a carbon monoxide detector in every room, not because I planned for disaster, but because I understood that planning isn't the same as expecting. I called my attorney the morning after I returned to the house. Not emotional, factual. I walked her through the timeline and the evidence. My wife had maintained prolonged digital correspondence with my brother on her personal email account, accessed through the family computer she'd remained logged into, giving me legal access to those records. The infidelity clause was clear and applicable. My wife had anticipated, in divorce proceedings, receiving a portion of the home equity accumulated during our marriage. That calculation was about to look very different than she expected. My family found out when my brother called our mother. He got there first, which I'd anticipated. He'd always been good at controlling a room's first impression of him. He framed it as a confession. With appropriate remorse, which is a long way from accountability, but sounds similar enough on a phone call, when the listener wants to believe it. My mother called me that evening. She was devastated, she said. She couldn't believe it. Then, predictably, inevitably, like a clock hitting the hour, he knows what he did was wrong. But you two are brothers. You can't just throw that away. I let her finish. Then I said that my brother had made his choices, with full knowledge of what they meant. And that I'd be making mine accordingly. My father called 2 days later. His approach was different, blunter, more impatient. These things happen in marriages, he's. The question is what you want to do from here. I hung up. My sister tried a softer angle, calling with that careful, neutral voice people use when they've already picked a side but want to seem undecided. She said she was on my side. She said it twice. Then she mentioned that my brother was struggling, that he felt terrible, that he hadn't slept. I told her good. He should feel terrible. He did something terrible. She said she didn't want to lose both of us. And there it was. The reframe. That made my reaction the variable. My refusal to absorb the damage, the thing threatening the famsicture, rather than the actual damage itself. I recognized it because I'd seen it before, the whole of my life. The family workhorse was supposed to keep carrying the load, even when the load was someone else's disaster. I filed for divorce in April. I did not announce it. My wife found out through her own attorney, who was contacted by mine. That's when the infidelity clause stopped being an abstraction. She called me in a panic. She said the prenup wasn't fair. I reminded her that she'd signed it in front of a notary, with independent legal counsel, 4 years earlier, when we were both clear-headed and optimistic. She said she'd been in love and hadn't thought it would ever be relevant. I told her I understood, and I ended the call. Here is where I made a decision that the version of me from 3 years ago wouldn't have recognized. I did not tell my family I was leaving Nashville. Not a word, not a forwarding address, not a text, not a casual mention. My firm had been trying to fill a senior project engineer role in their Charlotte office for 6 months. I had quietly applied for it in the weeks after the discovery and accepted the offer in May. I gave my landlord 60 days notice, sold or donated what I couldn't fit in a moving truck, and drove east with no social media announcement, no goodbye calls, no explanation. I gave my new address to 3 people, my attorney, my college friend, and my new landlord. Charlotte suited me. I found an apartment in South End, furnished it without sentiment, and built a routine. Early morning runs along the Greenway. A diner on Montford where they knew my coffee order within 2 weeks. A team of 7 at work. The kind of people who ask one smart question in a project meeting, and then go execute without needing to be managed. I was good at my job in Nashville. I got better at it in Charlotte. Partly because I had nothing else to throw myself into. And partly because competence. When it's the only thing you're confident about, sharpens fast. My family noticed the silence before they noticed the absence, and the absence before they found a trail. I'd blocked their numbers the morning I left Nashville. Every one of them, cleanly and without ceremony. I sent my mother a single text before blocking. I'm safe. Don't look for me. She looked anyway. My college friend called to warn me. My mother had reached out asking if he knew where I was. He told her he didn't, which was accurate since I'd only given him my new phone number. I appreciated the precision. 6 months in, a number I didn't recognize left me a voicemail. My brother, new phone. I listened to him. He was sorry. He thought about what he'd done every day. He and my ex-wife had talked about reaching out to make amends before they moved forward together. He hoped I could find it in my heart eventually. I deleted it. Blocked the number. My mother found my work email through the firm's public directory. Took her until February, nearly a year after I'd left. She wrote a long message about the family falling apart. About my father going quiet about holidays that nobody enjoyed. She mentioned my brother and my ex-wife were moving in together. She said they wanted to reconcile before starting their new life. Wanted to apologize properly. Wanted my blessing. My blessing. I wrote back 4 sentences. I received your message. I'm not interested in reconciliation. I'm asking you not to contact this address again. I wish you well. Then I forwarded the exchange to HR with a brief explanation, so there was a documented record if it continued. It continued. My father appeared at my office building in March. Security called up, and I came down to the lobby to find him in one of the chairs near the entrance. Grayer and more tired than I remembered. He said he wasn't there to argue. Just to talk. I told him there was nothing left to talk about, that hadn't already resolved itself. Through the decisions everyone had made. He said I was throwing away my family over a mistake. I told him I hadn't thrown anything away. I'd accepted what was true about my family and built accordingly, which was what I'd always done, and what apparently nobody had noticed me doing for 34 years. He said, son, in a tone that expected something from me. I said that if anyone from the family showed up at my workplace again, I would involve HR and consult with my attorney about next steps. I wasn't threatening him. I was explaining a fact. Then I went back upstairs. My sister flew to Charlotte in April and texted me from the airport. She said she just wanted coffee, an hour. She wasn't leaving until she saw me. I called building security, gave them a description, and asked them to be aware. Then I texted her, I know you're here, I'm not coming, please go home. She sent 4 messages after that. The last one said I was being cruel, that the whole family loved me, that none of them had known it would end like this. I read that one twice. I wanted to tell her, nobody ends up here by accident. You end up here through an accumulation of smaller choices, each of which looked manageable in isolation. My brother's choice to act on whatever he felt instead of honoring what he owed me. My parents' choice to prioritize comfort and family optics over basic accountability. My sister's choice in every conversation that mattered. To frame my pain as an obstacle to family unity rather than the point. None of it was sudden. All of it was chosen. I texted back, go home, don't come back. Then I blocked her number. My attorney sent formal cease and desist letters to each of them by certified mail. The documentation was substantial. Voicemails, emails, 2 in-person appearances at my workplace. The letter was clear about what further contact would produce. I don't know what happened when the envelopes arrived. I wasn't watching. I didn't have anyone reporting back to me, because I'd restructured my life. So that wasn't necessary. The contact stopped. That was 14 months ago. I'm not going to tell you I feel nothing. I wake up some mornings at 4 a.m., and my brain runs the math. I can't stop it from running. How long the affair lasted, how many times I was in the same room as both of them and noticed nothing. How thoroughly I'd built a life around people who were operating in a completely different version of it. That math doesn't come out to anything useful. I still do it sometimes. It gets quieter over time, but it doesn't disappear, and I'm skeptical of anyone who says it does. Here is what 14 months in Charlotte has actually produced. I was promoted to senior project lead 8 months in. I run most mornings now along the same stretch of Greenway. Early enough that the path is mostly empty. I have a standing order at a diner on Montford. Eggs over easy, wheat toast, black coffee. And they have it started when I walk through the door on Saturday mornings. I've made a small number of friends, the right kind. People who don't need every silence filled. I've been on a few dates. Nothing serious yet. But I've remembered what it feels like to spend an evening with someone whose company is uncomplicated. And that memory is good to have back. Last month, my brother found me on LinkedIn. He'd tried every other channel, and that one was the last one standing. His message was short: things with my ex-wife hadn't worked out. He'd done a lot of thinking. He wanted to know if I'd ever be open to talking. I looked at the message for a while. I thought about what I'd want from that conversation. What it could give me that I don't already have. I couldn't think of anything. I archived it and went back to work. My mother still sends Christmas cards to a P.O. box. I'm fairly sure she got from a public record search. I open them because I'm curious, not because I'm reconsidering. They say she misses me. She signs my father's name too, though I don't know if he knows she's sending them. She writes every year, "That family is forever." I keep the cards in a drawer. I know what forever meant to me for 34 years. It meant showing up. Building things. Trusting people past what the evidence probably supported. Because that's what you do with people you love. It meant being the reliable one, the steady one, the one who could be counted on, right up until the moment I needed someone to count on me. Some things can't be unforgiven. I'm not saying that with bitterness. I'm saying it the way you state a load-bearing fact in a structural report. Not because you want it to be true, but because the numbers say so, and the numbers don't care what you'd prefer. I have a life I built myself, in a city I chose, with a team that respects what I bring to the work, and mornings that belong entirely to me. The quiet took some adjusting to. Now it's the thing I'd fight hardest to keep. That's what the other side of it actually looks like. Estimas, seen, not a public reckoning. Just a man who decided that the people who proved themselves untrustworthy didn't get to keep access to him, and then went and built something worth protecting.